I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am, typing my heart out in the hopes of clarifying my confusion and sharing my story. I'm David, a 34-year-old guy who had everything figured out, or so I thought. My wife Ashley and I had been happily married for 8 years. We moved into a cozy house in the suburbs, and we were that couple everyone envied. Friends often called us the perfect pair, and I believed the hype. But as they say, all that glitters isn't gold. Things started to shift about 6 months ago. Ashley, who used to be the most enthusiastic person about our routine, suddenly changed. I noticed her coming home late from work more often and her phone glued to her hand, almost like it was a lifeline. She'd be in the next room, laughing at something on her screen while I was desperate for her attention. The late night, work meetings and insistence on keeping her phone face down became daily routines. It didn't sit well with me. One Sunday afternoon, I was cleaning out the garage when I found a stack of old boxes. I stumbled upon a shoe box, filled with letters and notes from her college days. As I flipped through them, nostalgia hit me, but then I found an envelope that didn't belong. It was addressed to Ashley, but the sender's name was unfamiliar. My heart raced as I opened it. Inside was a card, and it read, "Can't wait to see you again, just like old times." There was no denying it. My gut twisted painfully. I confronted her that evening. "Who's Matt?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The look on her face was one I'd never seen before, an unsettling mix of shock and guilt. "Matt, what are you talking about?" she stammered, her voice rising defensively. I held out the card, watching her face drain of color. "You're reading too much into this, David. It's just an old friend," she shot back. I wanted to believe her, but deep down the suspicion festered. The little things began to add up, the secretive texts, the late nights, the vague excuses. It made me feel like a fool, and anger bubbled beneath the surface. My mind spiraled as I thought about the late-night work meetings and the way she smiled at her phone. Days turned into weeks and the knot in my stomach tightened. I decided to play detective. I began tracking her movements, noting everything. One evening, I followed her after she claimed she was going to a team dinner. I felt like a character in a bad movie, creeping through the streets with my heart pounding in my chest. My instincts were right. She wasn't at a dinner with her colleagues, but at a small bar downtown with Matt. I watched from a distance, frozen in place as I saw her laugh and lean in close to him. The betrayal hit like a punch to the gut. I had to confront her, but I wanted evidence, something concrete to throw at her. I spent the next few weeks gathering details, clippings of receipts, photographs, and text message screenshots. The weight of the secrets was heavy, but I needed to prepare myself for the day I would confront her. Little did I know, the reunion dinner with our friends would become the stage for my confrontation. I hadn't planned this, but there comes a point when enough is enough. I was tired of feeling like the fool in my own home. It was time to lay it all bare and show her the receipts. I was ready to uncover the truth, and I would make sure she could no longer play the victim. This was going to be explosive. The day of the reunion dinner felt surreal. I had been counting down the days, not because I was looking forward to reconnecting with old friends, but because I knew it would be the perfect opportunity to confront Ashley. I was a bundle of nerves mixed with resolve, pacing back and forth in our living room, waiting for her to finish getting ready. She looked stunning, as always, in that little black dress that hugged her curves perfectly. If only she knew how much that dress turned my stomach now. We arrived at the restaurant, a popular spot known for its vibrant atmosphere. It was packed with familiar faces, friends we hadn't seen in years. As we mingled and exchanged pleasantries, my heart raced. I could feel the tension building inside me, and I tried to focus on the laughter and chatter around me. But all the while, my mind was racing with thoughts of how I'd reveal the truth. Ashley, ever the center of attention, laughed a little too loud and chatted animatedly, oblivious to my inner turmoil. I caught snippets of conversation, people talking about their careers, kids, and vacations. It was supposed to be a night of nostalgia, but for me, it was a countdown to confrontation. As dessert was served, I made my move. I stood up, clearing my throat to grab everyone's attention. "Hey, everyone, I just wanted to say a few words." The clinking of forks and knives came to a halt and all eyes turned to me. I looked right at Ashley, who wore a bemused smile, unaware of the storm I was about to unleash. "I'm so glad we could all get together again," I began, forcing a smile. "It's been too long, but before we reminisce, there's something I need to address. Ashley, can you come up here for a minute?" The room buzzed with whispers, and I could see a flicker of confusion cross her face. "David, what's this about?" she asked, but I ignored her question. Taking a deep breath, I pulled out my phone, holding it up like a trophy. "I have something to share with all of you. Ashley has been seeing someone else, and I have the receipts to prove it." Gasps echoed around the table. Ashley's face turned pale, and she shot me a look of disbelief mixed with rage. "What the hell are you talking about?" she spat, her voice low but laced with venom. "This is so embarrassing." I swiped through my phone, pulling up the text messages I had saved, the pictures of them together at the bar, and the card I had found weeks prior. "You think I'm going to let you play the victim when you've been lying to me?" I said, my voice steady but my heart racing. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, a mixture of anger and vulnerability. As I read the messages aloud, the room fell silent. I could see shock spread across the faces of our friends, their expressions a mix of pity and disbelief. Ashley stood there, her jaw clenched, trying to maintain her facade. "You don't understand, David. You're taking this all out of context. Matt was just someone I reconnected with. It didn't mean anything." She protested, her voice rising, but the shaky edge gave away her guilt. "Didn't mean anything." I shot back, my anger boiling over. "You've been meeting him behind my back while I thought we were happy. You've been lying to me and pretending everything was fine. How long has this been going on? David, please, this isn't what it looks like," she exclaimed, desperation creeping into her tone. The facade began to crack as the pressure mounted. "I was just confused. We were having problems and I didn't know how to deal with it." This was the moment I had been waiting for. "Problems? You mean your affair? This is how you deal with it, by cheating on your husband?" I countered, feeling the weight of anger and betrayal wash over me. The room was still. Our friends shifted uncomfortably, unsure of how to react. I could see a few of them exchanging glances, their expressions caught between sympathy for me and disbelief at what Ashley was trying to spin. She stood there, seething with rage and humiliation, and I could see her processing the reality of the situation. "You're ruining everything, David. You're making me look like the bad guy here," she yelled, trying to shift the blame. "Everything was ruined the moment you decided to betray me." I shot back, my voice cracking under the weight of my emotions. "You can't keep playing the victim while you stab me in the back." The air was thick with tension, and I felt a mix of triumph and heartbreak. I had confronted her, laid everything bare, but at what cost? I was surrounded by old friends, yet I felt more isolated than ever. The aftermath of that confrontation was bound to be complicated. I knew I had to deal with the fallout, not just with Ashley but with our friends too. But for now, I had taken a stand. I had shown the truth, and now I had to navigate the consequences of that revelation. The immediate aftermath of the confrontation was chaos. People murmured among themselves, offering furtive glances, unsure of how to process what had just happened. Ashley stood there, her face a mixture of anger and humiliation, and I could see the tears welling up in her eyes. But any sympathy I might have felt was drowned out by the anger and hurt that coursed through me. "David, can we talk?" Ashley finally managed to say, her voice low but laced with the kind of desperation that struck a chord with me. She moved towards me, but I stepped back, not wanting to be anywhere near her at that moment. "Talk? About what, Ashley? The old friend you've been sleeping with?" I hissed, the bitterness in my voice cutting through the tension that filled the room. I could see our friends shifting awkwardly, unsure of what to do. Some looked like they wanted to intervene, others like they'd rather be anywhere else. "Let's just go home," she pleaded, her eyes pleading with me. "We can figure this out. Please don't do this here." "Figure what out?" I shot back, feeling hot tears threaten to spill from my eyes. "What's there to figure out? You cheated on me. You lied to my face. This is not something we can just sweep under the rug." A few of our friends, sensing the escalating tension, began to stand up, awkwardly excusing themselves. "We should probably go," one of them said, looking at us both like we were in a soap Opera, I could practically hear the thoughts racing through their minds. How did it come to this? David, I swear it was just a phase. Ashley's voice trembled and I could see her trying to regain her composure, but the cracks were starting to show. I thought you weren't happy either. I was confused. I didn't know how to talk to you about it. Confused. I laughed bitterly, the sound harsh in the now silent restaurant. You're telling me that sleeping with someone else was your answer to confusion. I felt the weight of the stares from the other tables, and it intensified my anger. I had never imagined my life would turn into a public spectacle like this. I could feel the heat of humiliation creeping up my neck, but I was too far gone in my anger to care about that now. Let's just go home, David, she repeated, and I could hear the urgency in her voice. I knew she wanted to control the narrative, to turn the tide back in her favor, but I wasn't about to let that happen. No, I'm not done, I stated firmly. You don't get to dictate how this goes anymore. I deserve to know everything. I've given you my trust, Ashley, and you shattered it. A part of me wanted to leave right then, to walk out of her life and never look back. But there was another part, a more vulnerable part, that wanted to believe in her words, if only for a moment. Was it worth it? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. Was he worth throwing away everything we built together? David, it didn't mean anything. I swear it was a mistake, she said, tears streaming down her cheeks now. It was painful to see her cry, but I felt no sympathy. I felt anger, betrayal, and the sting of deception. Stop, I said, holding up my hand. No more excuses. You did this to yourself. It was a thought I had to cling to, a way to keep myself grounded amid the emotional storm. After what felt like an eternity, I took a deep breath and turned to leave the restaurant, my heart racing. I needed air. I needed space. As I walked out, I could hear Ashley calling after me, but I didn't look back. The door swung shut behind me, cutting off the muffled sounds of the confrontation and leaving me alone to grapple with the reality of what had just happened. Outside, the cool night air hit my face like a splash of cold water. I leaned against the brick wall of the restaurant, my mind racing. I felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and fear about what the future held. What did this mean for our marriage? Could I ever trust her again? I stood there, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders, replaying the night's events in my head. I thought about our life together, the laughter, the dreams, the promises we had shared. It felt like a cruel joke now, like I had been living in a fantasy while she had been living a double life. I pulled out my phone, staring at the screen blankly. I thought about reaching out to a friend, someone who could help me process all of this, but I didn't know where to begin. I felt isolated, like I was standing on an island of betrayal while Ashley was still in the mainland, surrounded by people who loved her. In that moment of solitude, I realized I had a decision to make. I could either let this define me, or I could take control of the narrative. I had to think about what I wanted moving forward. Did I want to fight for my marriage, even after this betrayal, or was it time to let go for good? I clenched my fists, feeling the rush of emotions course through me. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. I had to make sense of it all, and I knew deep down it would take more than just a night of confrontation to heal the wounds that had been inflicted. The journey would be long, and I had to prepare for what was ahead. I spent the night at a friend's place, needing distance from Ashley and the chaos that had erupted between us. Mark, my best friend since childhood, didn't ask too many questions when I showed up at his door. He could see the pain etched on my face and ushered me inside without a word, offering me a beer and a couch to crash on. I appreciated his silent support. I wasn't ready to dive into the details just yet. As I sat there nursing my drink, the events from earlier replayed in my mind like a broken record. I couldn't shake the image of Ashley and Matt together, laughing and sharing intimate moments while I was at home, blissfully unaware. It made my stomach churn. I felt like I had been living in a sitcom where the laughter was just a cover for the tragic reality underneath. The hours passed and I tried to sleep, but the betrayal clawed at me, making it impossible to find rest. I tossed and turned, replaying every moment, the laughter at the dinner, the gasps of our friends, Ashley's tears. I couldn't help but feel like I was in some twisted nightmare where everything I thought I knew was an illusion. Finally, I gave up on sleep and grabbed my phone. I opened the text thread with Ashley, staring at our conversations filled with love and hope. It felt like a lifetime ago. With a heavy heart, I typed out a message. We need to talk. I can't do this over text, but I need to know if we have any chance of making this work. I hit send and waited, my heart racing. The minutes felt like hours, but finally my phone buzzed. Can we meet tomorrow? I promise I'll explain everything, was her reply. I felt a mix of relief and dread wash over me. At least she wanted to talk. Maybe there was still a glimmer of hope. The next day I found myself sitting in a small coffee shop, my hands trembling slightly as I waited for her to arrive. The place was cozy, filled with the comforting aroma of coffee beans and pastries, but I felt anything but cozy. I wasn't sure what I wanted to hear. Part of me craved answers, while another part feared the potential for more lies. When Ashley walked in, she looked a mess. Her hair was slightly unkempt and her eyes were red from crying. My heart twinged at the sight of her, but I quickly pushed that feeling aside. I had to stay strong. "Hey," she said softly, sliding into the chair across from me. The tension hung thick in the air, and I could see the weight of the last few days pressing down on her. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. "So, what did you want to say?" She took a deep breath, collecting her thoughts. "I'm so sorry, David. I can't even begin to express how sorry I am. I know I messed up. I don't have any excuses for what I did, but I want you to know that it wasn't about you. It was about me and my confusion. Everything felt so overwhelming." I wanted to scream, to call her out on her bullshit, but I forced myself to listen. "How can you say it wasn't about me?" I shot back, my voice rising slightly. "You chose to cheat. You chose to betray my trust. It's directly about me." I know, and I hate myself for it," she exclaimed, her voice cracking. But I was feeling lost, and when Matt reached out, it felt like a way to escape, to find some sort of validation outside of our marriage. It was so stupid, and I regret it every day. I felt a surge of anger as I processed her words. "So, running into an old flame and jumping into bed with him was your solution. That's how you escape." I leaned forward, trying to rein in my emotions. "You didn't think about what that would do to us, to me?" "I didn't think at all, David. I was selfish. I let my insecurities dictate my actions, and I'm so sorry," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I never wanted to hurt you. I can't change what I did, but I want to make it right. I love you, and I don't want to lose you." The sincerity in her voice made my heart ache, but I couldn't let that cloud my judgment. "Can I trust you again?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You've shattered everything we built together. This isn't just about love anymore, it's about trust." "I know. I'm willing to do anything to rebuild that trust. I'll go to therapy, I'll be transparent, I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I'm committed to making things right," she pleaded, her hands trembling on the table. As I listened to her, I felt the flicker of hope battling against the walls I had built around my heart. Part of me wanted to believe her, wanted to give her another chance, but the other part was terrified of being hurt again. "Let me think about it," I finally said, my voice steady. "I need space to process all of this. We can't just jump back into things like nothing happened." She nodded, the weight of my words settling in. "I understand, just please don't give up on us. I'll do whatever it takes." As she left the coffee shop, I felt a mix of relief and sadness wash over me. I was grateful for the chance to talk, but terrified about the road ahead. It was going to be a long, hard journey, and I knew deep down that rebuilding trust wouldn't be easy. I had a lot to think about, and as I sat there, sipping my coffee, I realized that my decision would shape not just my future but also Ashley's. I would have to weigh my feelings, my anger, and my love to figure out what came next. It was time to reflect on what I truly wanted, and more importantly, whether or not I could forgive her. The days following our conversation at the coffee shop felt like an emotional roller coaster. I was stuck in a limbo of anger, confusion, and a flicker of hope. I spent hours going over every moment of my marriage with Ashley, dissecting the good times alongside the recent betrayal. It was exhausting. I could feel the weight of the decisions ahead pressing down on me, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to move forward. Mark, my friend, was trying his best to keep me distracted. He invited me out to play basketball and catch up with some mutual friends. While I appreciated the effort, I often found my mind wandering back to Ashley. I was angry, yes, but I also missed her. I missed the little things, the laughter, the inside jokes, the companionship that had defined our relationship for so long. One night after a game, I found myself sitting on Mark's couch, staring blankly at the TV. Mark glanced over, his expression serious. "You still thinking about Ashley?" he asked, concern etched on his face. "Yeah," I admitted, sighing deeply. I don't know if I should just cut my losses or try to work things out. Part of me wants to believe her when she says she'll change, but another part of me feels like a fool for even considering it. Look, bro, it's normal to feel conflicted. You loved her and she turned your world upside down. It's a tough position to be in, Mark said, leaning forward. But you need to ask yourself what you want. Do you want to fight for her, or do you need to move on? That question lingered in my mind long after our conversation. I spent a lot of time thinking about the what-ifs. What if Ashley truly was willing to do the work? What if we could rebuild our relationship stronger than before? But then, what if she hurt me again? I felt trapped in a web of uncertainty. Then came the day we agreed to meet again. I sat at the same coffee shop, my heartbeat quickening as I waited for Ashley. I had spent the night thinking about this meeting, mulling over everything that had been said and unsaid. When she walked in, I felt a mix of anticipation and dread. She approached me with a nervous smile, but I could see the uncertainty in her eyes. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, softly sitting down across from me. Her hands fidgeted in her lap and I could feel the tension radiating off her. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," I began, trying to sound assertive. "I want to hear you out, but I'm not making any promises." "I understand," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been reflecting a lot too. I know I messed up and I want to make things right. I've started seeing a therapist to work through my issues. I need to understand why I made such selfish choices." I nodded, crossing my arms. "That's a start, but it's only a start. I want to know how you plan to show me that I can trust you again. Words are just words without action." "I get that," she said, looking me straight in the eye, her expression earnest. "I want to be transparent with you. I'm willing to share my phone, my messages, everything. I want to be an open book. I'll do the work in therapy, and I'll invite you to join some sessions if that would help." Her willingness to be open struck a chord with me. "We're going to need a lot of time, though. Trust doesn't just come back overnight. It might take months, maybe even years," I warned, my heart pounding. "I'm ready for that," she asserted, her eyes brimming with tears. "I don't want to lose you, David. I'll do whatever it takes to prove that to you." As I sat there listening to her, I felt a flicker of something, maybe hope, but I was terrified of what that hope could lead to. I needed to take my time, but I also realized that if I wanted to move forward, I had to let go of my immediate anger and start focusing on the potential for healing. "I'm not ready to just jump back into our old life," I finally said. "I think it would be best if we took things slow. I need to see real change. I need to know that you're not just saying these things because you're scared of losing me." "Absolutely. I'll show you," she promised, her voice trembling with sincerity. "I'm ready to be patient, David. I know I've messed up, but I want to earn your trust back. I love you and I want to fight for us." In that moment, I allowed myself to feel a sliver of hope. It was fragile, but it was there. "Okay," I said, taking a deep breath. "Let's take it one day at a time then. I'm willing to try, but you have to be committed to this journey. No more lies, no more secrets." "Deal," she replied, and for the first time in a while, I saw a glimmer of the woman I had fallen in love with. The one who made me laugh, who got me through tough times, the one I wanted to believe in. As we continued to talk, I could sense a shift in the atmosphere. It was as if we were starting anew, even if the road ahead would be rocky. I understood that rebuilding trust would take time and effort from both of us, and it wouldn't be easy. But I was willing to try if she was, and that felt like a step in the right direction. With that decision, I felt lighter, like a burden had been lifted from my shoulders. I didn't know what the future held, but I was finally open to moving forward, one cautious step at a time. The following weeks were a whirlwind of emotions as Ashley and I began our painstaking journey of rebuilding our relationship. It wasn't without its challenges. In fact, it was often excruciating. We had our fair share of uncomfortable conversations, emotional outbursts, and moments where I found myself questioning whether I was doing the right thing by giving her another chance. Ashley kept her promise to be transparent. She shared her phone with me. I had access to her social media, her texts, everything. At first, it felt liberating, but as the days turned into weeks, I found that transparency wasn't enough to quell the doubts that clung to me. I would scroll through her messages, searching for signs of deceit, and I often found myself spiraling back into that dark place of insecurity. Yet, as we engaged in therapy together, I began to see glimpses of the deeper issues that had led to her infidelity. It wasn't just about her wandering heart. It was about her feeling lost and inadequate, struggling with the weight of our expectations and her own insecurities. I learned that she had been battling feelings of unworthiness for years, and while that didn't excuse her actions, it helped me understand her better. During those therapy sessions, I found myself opening up too, sharing my own fears and insecurities. I realized that I had built walls around my heart, and the betrayal had only reinforced those barriers. I needed to learn how to be vulnerable again, not just for Ashley's sake, but for my own. It was a slow process, but I started to feel like we were creating a new foundation for our relationship, one built on honesty and understanding. One evening, several weeks into our renewed commitment to each other, we sat on the couch after dinner, both of us exhausted from a long day. Ashley curled up next to me, resting her head on my shoulder. "Do you think we're getting better?" she asked, her voice soft. I took a moment to consider my answer. "I think so. We're talking more, being honest with each other. That's a good step, but we have a long way to go," I replied, feeling the weight of my words. "I'm still learning to trust you again, and that's going to take time." "I understand," she said, looking up at me with those big, earnest eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes to prove that I'm committed to us. I don't want to lose you again." Her sincerity cut through my defenses, and while I still felt the sting of betrayal, I also felt warmth in her presence. We were confronting our demons together, and there was something powerful about that shared vulnerability. As the weeks turned into months, we continued to navigate this uncertain territory. There were moments of doubt and fear, but there were also moments of joy, laughter, and renewed intimacy. We began to rediscover the little things that drew us together in the first place, cooking dinner together, binge-watching our favorite shows, and sharing our dreams for the future. One sunny Saturday afternoon, we decided to take a hike at a nearby nature reserve, something we used to love doing together. As we trekked along the trails, surrounded by the beauty of nature, I felt a shift within myself. The air was fresh, and the sunlight streamed through the trees, illuminating the path ahead. "David, do you remember when we first hiked this trail?" Ashley asked, a smile breaking across her face. "Of course, you tripped and fell into that mud puddle," I chuckled, recalling the memory with fondness. "I was mortified," she laughed, rolling her eyes playfully. "But you helped me up, and we laughed about it the whole way home." "That's what I loved about us," I said, taking her hand. "We could turn those embarrassing moments into something beautiful." We reached the summit and stood there, taking in the breathtaking view of the valley below. In that moment, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I realized that while the journey had been painful, it was also transformative. I had learned so much about myself and about love, about forgiveness, resilience, and the importance of communication. "David," Ashley said, breaking the silence, "I know I've hurt you, and I'm so grateful you decided to fight for us. I promise to keep working on myself, to keep showing up for you. I love you." "I love you too, Ashley," I replied, feeling the warmth of her hand in mine. "I think we're going to be okay. It's going to take time, but I believe we can make it through this together." As we stood there, hand in hand, I felt the weight of the past lift slightly. While I knew there would be challenges ahead, I also knew we were on the right path, one built on trust, understanding, and love. The journey wouldn't be easy, but I was ready for it, one step at a time. And in that moment, I realized that sometimes, out of the ashes of betrayal, something beautiful could emerge if both people were willing to fight for it. We were still a work in progress, but together, we were writing a new chapter, one that would hopefully lead us to a brighter future.